Bon Jovi has a lot going on this year as he's celebrating the amazing 40th anniversary of his music career. And with that comes a brand new album and single we're going to tell you about, but also a documentary series that incredibly features both current and former members of his band. Now, why this is especially interesting is that Richie Sambora was interviewed for this documentary, which has a lot of people wondering whether or not we're going to see him returning to the fold anytime soon. This is something Richie Sambora has spoken repeatedly about, indicating that he thinks it's going to happen. But now we have brand new comments from Bon Jovi that make it sound like it might not. Here's more. When we last talked about Bon Jovi on the show, one of the things we discussed was the vocal issues he's been dealing with for quite some time. Now he's saying that he had surgery to hopefully resolve that issue. And he had a heartfelt statement revealing that he wouldn't continue performing at all if he's not able to be at his best. So he's hopeful that this surgery will be effective, and he says that it's been going very well so far. Now, Bon Jovi had said very little about those vocal issues. He opened up on the red carpet at this event, the Music Cares event, honoring his legacy. He said, "I pride myself on having been a true vocalist. I know how to sing. I've studied the craft for 40 years. I'm not a stylist who just barks and howls. I know how to sing. So when God was taking away my ability and I couldn't understand why, I jokingly have said the only thing that's ever been up my nose is my finger, so there's no reason for any of this. So the strong one was pushing the weak one aside, and I wasn't singing well. My craft was being taken from me." Bon Jovi said he thankfully was introduced to a surgeon who gave him a cutting-edge implant to build the cord back up. Now he's still in the process of healing, over 19 months into rehab. He continued, "But nonetheless, and I say this in the film and in the latter episodes, if I just had my tools back, the rest of it I can deal with. I can write you a song, I can perform as well as anybody, but I need to get my tools back." Now, this documentary series is called Thank You, Good Night. It premieres on April 26th on Hulu. It's a 4-part series, and again, features Richie Sambora, who has repeatedly said in public that he believes that a reunion will happen with Bon Jovi. That would be something that would be a very big deal for fans, especially if Bon Jovi is recovering effectively from that surgery. Sambora was asked as recently as this week about the potential for a reunion. He was asked at a horse racing event. He said that there's talking taking place. There's a documentary that's being done about the band and stuff that I participated in, and people want to come see us play, and it's going to make everybody happy. I mean, essentially, that's why you do it at this point. He added, "I think that we wrote a lot of songs that changed a lot of people's lives just by letting them have a good time. I know that's what the music did to me, kept me company, and I hope that I can reflect that in what I do." He goes on to say, so yeah, it definitely could happen. It's just a question of when everybody's ready to do it. And it would be a big, massive kind of undertaking. And as for the timing, I'm not sure. It's up to people's. It's got to be right. That's all. And in closing, he said, "It's time to do it, though. This is our 40th anniversary, but I feel younger than ever. I'm having a ball." Now, there's been a lot of talk about a potential Bon Jovi reunion with Richie Sambora over the years. As recently as last year, Sambora had a different tune where he was asked about a reunion. He said no one had asked him and he was hopeful to do it, but there were no moving parts. And now he is making it sound like there could be a possibility. But it's worth noting that there have been rumors that Richie Sambora was going to be returning to Bon Jovi for quite some time. Now, Bon Jovi has very big plans to celebrate his 40th anniversary this year. He just announced a brand new record and released a new single. The single is called Legendary, to be featured on this album Forever, which will be releasing on June 7th. And I must say, it is quite impressive for Bon Jovi throughout this recovery process to record and complete a brand new album. Now, of course, Richie Sambora is not on this record and they have not reunited yet. There is no word on if that's going to happen. Sambora is very hopeful for this. Bon Jovi, though, was just asked about this earlier today, and his response was quite different from what we've been hearing from Richie Sambora, in that he hasn't even spoken to Richie Sambora. This is what Bon Jovi had to say about what happened when Richie Sambora left the band. He said, "We were in Calgary and it was the first leg, show 21. And every ticket had sold out and we had a 100 show commitment." He said, "Richie was coming from a Hawaii trip. He said, I'd like to come up on the day of the show to get my daughter home and unpack." Bon Jovi said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "I got a phone call in our room from our manager. He never calls my room." I go, "Oh no." And he says, "Yep. Sambora would not make that night show or any others since." It says, after pulling double duty on vocals and guitar that night, Bon Jovi called upon guitarist Phil X, who is still with the band, to help the group finish out the tour he'd covered for him last time when he was in rehab, he says, and this is the part that makes me optimistic. He says, that's the story. There was no fight or money issues like the reports say. Nobody expected Richie to quit in the middle of the night for no reason. He wasn't fired. He just didn't come to work. That was Bon Jovi's recount of the situation years ago. Here's what Bon Jovi's saying this week about his relationship with Richie Sambora. And so while Sambora sounds very optimistic, it doesn't sound like Bon Jovi perceives that situation the same way. He told Ultimate Classic Rock, we're not in contact because he's not in the organization any longer. That doesn't mean that there's not love forever, but it's 11 years ago and he just didn't show up anymore. And there were emotional issues that he was dealing with as a single dad. And there were substance abuse issues that, Phil X had to show up one time and then Phil X had to show up another time. And then again, there's a show that night. What are we going to do? It says Bon Jovi and Sambora are set to appear in the upcoming docuseries Thank You Goodnight, the Bon Jovi Story, premiering on Hulu next month for this 40th anniversary. And Bon Jovi says he didn't talk to him at all, even though he and Sambora are childhood friends. I find it interesting the way he phrases this too. He says, not a word. That was the director. This wasn't a puff piece, and this was no bullshit. This is not us behind the scenes pulling strings. Oh, no. They interviewed Richie in London. I wasn't there. I had nothing to do with it. No, I still haven't seen the finished product. Sambora told People in 2021 of his decision to leave the band. It wasn't a popular decision by any means, obviously, but there was really almost no choice about it. I had a lot of conscious work to do around my personal life. I had people around me that loved me, and it was a good thing. I got through it. I realized his daughter needed me to be around at that point in time. Family had to come first, and that's what happened. Will Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora reunite? It remains to be seen, but it doesn't sound like there's any reason why they could not. It would be a big deal, but on the other hand, Bon Jovi, as he's kind of saying there in that response, it seems like he's concerned about running into that problem again, and he's pointing out that they've had to bring in another guitarist 2 different occasions. That guitarist has been very good for them, very reliable, so we'll have to see. But that is your latest update from Rockfeed. Let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments as always, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on for the latest news and updates.